I'm blessed that Pastor Sean and Carolyn have given me the opportunity to speak to you again in his absence. And so I will do my best to bring to you the word as I see it in terms of angels among us, the topic that he was going to speak about today. Please pray with me. I come in fear and trembling, a prisoner of your word, O God. Pray for me that when I speak, a message may be given to me to make known with boldness the mystery of the gospel. Help me to feel your presence, and in so doing, I may give as much as I can in finding out what it is that you want us to say about this topic. Order my steps, O Lord, in your word. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Okay, let's talk about this passage. In the days of King Herod, okay? Now, I don't know if many of you know, but King Herod was the one who lived at the time of Jesus. King Herod was the one who put all those babies to death because he was terrified that this Jesus was going to take over his throne. King Herod was the one who, after doing all this, still was not satisfied. And during this time, there was this priest named Zechariah. Now, at that time, there were millions of priests, because during all that time, between the time of Malachi, the last book in the Bible, and the first book in Matthew, during all that time, God seemed to be silent. And there were just priests, and they were going into the temple one at a time. One at a time. It's not like now we have, everyone can go to the temple, okay? One person at a time, one priest at a time, and they drew lots to see who was going to go. Well, Zechariah was able to do that. He drew the lot, and he went into the temple. And inside there, he was praying. And all of a sudden, somebody came in. And he didn't turn around and say, hey, what you doing here? I'm the only one supposed to be here. No, he didn't say that. He was terrified. Let's look at the passage. It says, and the day, verse 8, on the day he was serving as priest before God, and his section was on duty, he was chosen by lot to enter the sanctuary. Now at the time of the incense offering, the whole assembly of the people were praying outside, and they were waiting for him to come outside. But the angel of the Lord came in and was talking to Zechariah. And he was afraid. Now, I don't know why Zechariah was afraid, because, you see, he knew about Gabriel. Wasn't Gabriel the angel that came to Daniel and helped Daniel with those dreams back in the Old Testament? And I'm sure, being a priest, he was able to understand and to read and to, at least to hear, maybe not read definitely, but to hear about what it was all about, but what it was that Gabriel had done. But he did not put two and two together. So he was terrified. Now, Zechariah and his wife was barren. They didn't have any children. Okay? And Zechariah didn't know what to do. Didn't know what to do. So when the angel came and said to him, you're going to have a son, he didn't believe him. You know, no. Zechariah forgot everything about what? Abraham and Sarah. Did the same thing happen? Is he not listening to what was happening before in his word? The same thing had happened. Of course, we know that Abraham couldn't wait. So he went and slept with his servant. Okay? Zechariah could not believe it. He said, your wife is going to have a son, and you will name him John. You will have joy and gladness and rejoice at his birth. Zechariah, what are you talking about? You see, when the Jews were in captivity for a period of time between the end of Malachi, they were in captivity with the Greeks first and then with the Romans. Everything that was happening was kind of a waiting period, okay? They were waiting for this Messiah to come. And the hope that they had was disappearing. They kind of were losing it. They were losing this hope. And the hope of God bringing to them this Messiah was beginning to subside. So when this angel appeared, he was terrified, even though he knew that this same Gabriel came to Daniel. And what did he say? In his fear and in his trembling and in his unknown, he said, how will I know that this is so? How will I know that this is so? And that's a question that puzzles us, and we say all the time. Even though God has said to us, I will, you turn and say, how do I know that this is so? And so Zechariah was saying the same thing. He had doubt. What he forgot to do was put his trust in God. What I forget to do is put my trust in God. What you forget to do is put your trust in God. And so that trust in God that was missing caused him to say, you're telling me this. I know God is telling me the truth. I'm an old man. Didn't he remember that Abraham was an old man? My wife is getting up in age. Didn't he remember that Sarah was getting up in age? And then Gabriel said, I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak to you and to bring you this good news. To bring you this good news. And that's what God brings to us. He brings us good news. And he sends this good news to us and the angels among us. He sends this good news to us to let us know that no matter what the pain or what the sorrow, whatever it is that's going on in our lives, there are angels that God sends to us. And those angels that he sends to us are always there present. Don't say, how will I know? Say, I trust. I trust in you. Now, it doesn't happen when you want it. No. No. God doesn't work that way. He doesn't give to us what we need when we ask of it right away. Sometimes he does. But he does it in God's time. And God, is always on time. Because God knows what we need. Not what we want, what we need. My brothers and sisters, I say to you that in all this word that we are talking about, we see the action of the presence of an angel, a messenger from God, sending to us news that presents to us that which we cannot even think about, that which we do not believe is possible, that which we do not think is something that we can always have. You see, Zechariah, even though he was a priest, even though he understood the whole religion, he still was lost in doubt. He still was lost in the unknown. Still was lost in the disbelief. And sometimes we need those angels among us to remind us that God is always with us, no matter where we are in the midst of our lives. I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak to you and to bring you this good news. But now, because you did not believe my words, which will be fulfilled in their time, you will become mute, unable to speak, until the day these things occur. Wow. God don't play. My brothers and sisters, I want you to take just a minute to think about what's happening in our world today. God is sending to us angels to ask us to do things. God is sending to us angels to prod us, to wake up and see the light of his love. God is sending angels to us to tell us that we must change our ways. God is sending angels to us to plead with us, that the kingdom here on earth be as it is in heaven. But if we continue to deny, if we continue to say no, to stand in belief, to not trust, because you do not believe my words, which will be fulfilled, we may become mute, lost. Let us not become a people that are lost. When we see the injustices that occur throughout, regardless of whether it is at home or is at work or say any place at play, if we see injustice that we know that God will say, no, that's not right, we must be like the angels and say, I stand in the presence of God, and that's not right. We must be like the angels who must continue to feel the presence of God and say, we must change our ways. We must be good, and we must continue to say with conviction, that when we say the Lord's Prayer and we say, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, that we mean it. There are angels among us. We are all can be angels among our world. Will you be an angel of God? Will you be an angel of God and do his will, God's will, on earth